call.
Here.
Here.
Counselor Duty?
Here.
Counselor Esposito? Counselor Fawnin?
Here.
Counselor Tucci?
May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the September 4th, 2012 regular Water Pollution Control Authority and Town Council agenda?
I'll second it with a few. Yeah, I just have two corrections to make on the minutes. On page 3, item 8, Town Manager's Report, the first paragraph, the cost to CCM, I had it down as $9,300, and the minutes say $3,900. Okay, so that would be a correction. And then on page 5, item D, under the beach volleyball court, the motion, it should read, Counselor Angeloni made a motion not to send, and then the rest is correct. And those are my corrections.
The minutes moved with the corrections. Councilman Duty, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wentworth. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Duty?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
A motion to approve the September 11, 2012 special meeting Town Council.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Wentworth, seconded by Councilor Angeloni. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Duty?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Special Town Council agenda. Item 3, reports of committees, boards, and commissions. Economic Development Commission.
They did not meet this month. They'll be meeting Monday.
Item B, Permanent Project Building Committee.
Permanent Project Building Committee met on September 10th, and later on in the agenda is the information to approve, there's a recommendation to approve the low bid to start the project. And that was it for the STW conversion.
Thank you, Rose. Item C, Potato and Corn Festival Financial Report in October. I believe we received the report, and the rest of it will
The next
be...
meeting, you'll have the more
Cool.
detailed report and an update on all the expenditures and revenues.
Item D, Emergency Communications Committee.
We're trying to get it together, a committee to go tour a couple of facilities, Quantipoc and Litchfield.
Item E, Finance Committee. How would you want to take that?
Finance Committee met last week, and there's a number of items on the agenda tonight in regards to contingency to close out last year, and then some starting this year. And we talked about the low bidders preference ordinance, which there's information later in the agenda in regards to that also, and that was about it.
Thank you. Item 4, Town Manager's Report.
Yes, good evening. I haven't passed out for you. This is the proposed landscaping for Route 80 that was approved by representatives from the church, as well as Fran, Marola, and Kurt, so that we can keep maintenance low. This is now with the state, and we'll hopefully be hearing back from them with any feedback that they have on this. But I think it's something that everybody has agreed with, and again, trying to keep it low maintenance, something that can survive on a busy road with cars, because a lot of the trees don't.
Bonnie, there's trees placed in other areas coming closer to Big Y on both sides of the streets. Was that part of the plan too?
I don't know, I'll divert it over to Kurt.
That was part of this current project. What the DOT was responding to comments and concerns when they did that phase that there ought to be some landscaping in
Okay,
there.
okay.
And it's sort of, there's a big lag between the work I've done on the road widening and then the landscaping got included in this current project.
Okay.
So
I was
it's really
surprised to
timing
see them
issue.
planting them.
Yeah, and then you see they're filling in all the riprap slopes and trying to
Right.
green it up a little bit, because that was a concern of the town a number of years ago that was passed on to the state. And that was their, they did respond to that.
Great, thanks, Kurt.
And I'm very pleased to announce that the forms for ineligible costs for the middle school are with the state. I'm thrilled about that. So right now, there's a total of $8,683,264. I'll put it in management report, the forms, but with the state, but it's now up to them to come in and talk to us, but it's there. And the high school roof was approved by the Board of Education and will now go to the Permanent Building Committee at their October meeting, and all those forms will then go into the state for the reimbursement for the roof. As Councilor Duty had mentioned, there is a tour of the Litchfield Dispatch tomorrow at 2, but I did explain it's very hard for all of you to make it during the day. So we will go tomorrow for those who can make it. Gina's got directions. If you can't, we'll be rescheduling for a time when you can. That's the dispatch that CMed is running for police and fire in that area. I'll be going, but we'll make sure it gets redone. And lastly, just a reminder that we do need to have, as soon as we can, a joint meeting with the Board of Education and all of you about the new state medical plan, because right now I can't do any more with union negotiations until, you guys get a update on where we're at with that, and then whether you wish to move forward. So we'll need to get some dates soon. And that's it, unless anyone has questions.
Thank you. Community events and presentations. Last week, myself and State Representative Vincent Candelar attended the 100th anniversary of the Ciccarelli Farm. It was a really nice event. There was a lot of people there, and it's nice to see a farm in our town, 100 years, another one. So it was a really nice day. Citizen statements, petitions, correspondence, resignations, and appointments. Town council member, Ronald Sienna, Republican, to replace Alfred Rose, term to expire November 13th, 2013.
I'll make the motion.
November 12th, I think.
I'm sorry, November.
Yeah, that's a mistake, I'm sorry. 2013.
I'll move the appointment.
Second.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Wentworth, seconded by Council Angeloni. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth,
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni,
Yes.
Counselor Caprio,
Yes.
Counselor Duty,
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin,
Yes.
He's here.
Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully discharge according to law your duties as a member of the North Branford Town Council to the best of your abilities, so help you God?
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard.
Okay, item B, Board of Fire Commissioners, Anthony Galicchio, term to expire December 1st, 2012.
I'll move the appointment of Anthony Galicchio.
Second.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Wentworth, seconded by Councilor Angeloni. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora,
Yes. I'd just like to mention, though, I am related to Anthony Galicchio, so just so everybody knows.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth,
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni,
Yes.
Counselor Caprio,
Yes.
Counselor Duty,
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Sienna,
Yes.
Congratulations.
I believe Anthony's here tonight. If you want to just stand up for a second, Tony. Sorry. Welcome. Item 8, unfinished business, discussion and action, conversion of natural gas to the North Branford Town Hall.
Yes, this was on your last agenda, and this item plus the next one, B, gas conversion kit. You wanted us to get some more information, and we have gotten the, right now that we figure about 4 years for the age of the boiler here in Town Hall. And natural gas for North Branford High School, the question was whether they had fixed prices. And they did have a fixed price till the end of the fiscal year, but they did reduce the amount of gallons, so they feel very, very good that they're going to use all those gallons and there won't be any penalty. And again, John Maziarz is here from Connecticut Gas Company if there's any questions. But I think it is a unique opportunity to save some money, and we probably should have had, at least with the installation for the lines for here, with the thought that we'll do something with the conversion in next capital.
And on the walkthrough at the high school, we did look at the boilers, and the boilers are in good condition. One of the boilers just had new baffles put in, so it's like new. And one of the other boilers was, I think, a 1993 or 94.
Right, but the burner is like probably 2 or 3 years old.
Right,
It was
right, the
original.
burner on it.
Yeah.
So at the high school, you know, the question remains, do we go to the dual burner or the single burner? For the, I think, difference in cost, we do have to go out to bid for it again, but I do think it's probably a good idea to go to the dual burner because the main gymnasium does require diesel fuel still to heat. There's a little more homework that needs to be done in the high school gymnasium as far as the heat source. Because if we go total gas, we're not going to have heat for that large gymnasium.
They have 2 steam things hanging in the gym, but one has been broken for
Okay.
a number of years, so only one operates right now. So when it's real cold, I mean, it's cold in the gym, but I haven't seen anything in any capital request to get that fixed over the last few years. So the question becomes if we go to strictly a gas conversion at the high school, then they would like to take both of those units out and get a gas unit to put on the roof of the gym to heat it. If we go with the dual-fired burners, they would still have to run the oil to get the steam to work the one unit that does work in the gym.
How old is that unit that works?
It's pretty old.
It's pretty old.
So if it's old, why do we want to I think we should stick with the gas.
Well, I think we need to do a little more homework as far as
But
that
if
goes.
we got an old unit and it's
Well,
going to
because
be the only source for the diesel fuel.
Right.
Well, one of the reasons that they wanted to go to a dual-fired is because gas is interruptible. So if they have a case where they're not getting gas in because it's interruptible and and it's during the winter time, they would have no means of heating, they could switch over to the oil.
How old are our oil tanks that are in there?
They're not bad. They invested some money in reline. I believe it was reline. Bill, I don't want to put you on the spot. Would you mind coming up for 1 second? Because I know we had a conversation on the tanks, and they did invest some money in those tanks not too long ago.
Yes, there was an
This is
investment.
Bill
on the tanks.
Chody.
Yeah, Bill Chody, supervisor of operations. Yes, there was some money spent on those tanks. That was mostly with repiping back to the building. So that was, I think it was around 5 to maybe 6 years ago. And that was,
What size are the tanks?
that's a 10,000-gallon tank that's at the high school right now. Just to correct what you were saying, we don't need diesel fuel to heat the gymnasium. We need either oil or gas to run the boiler to make steam to heat the
Right.
gymnasium.
Whether
So
those.
either way, we get, any way we generate the steam, that will heat the that will heat.
That'll
the
work
gymnasium.
in there,
Right.
yeah. But are those units, I know one is not working.
One is down, it has a leak in its core, and it just doesn't seem to be at this time feasible to pull that thing off the ceiling. and
But it's
put a
been down
core in
for
it.
a while, right?
It's been down probably right now about 2 years.
Yeah.
So basically, it'll work off the gas or the.
Right, it'll work
Oil.
off gas or oil, it makes no difference as long as it has steam going to it.
But we just
And
have
and
to
the only
keep
thing
it
that we
in mind.
had discussed was the possibility of putting a rooftop unit
Right.
that would run off of gas to heat it, because if you're bringing gas to the building, you might as well, get rid of the steam part of the heating unit.
Right. So we could still go forward with the dual burners and do a phase 2 maybe and look at those, that unit.
It might behoove us to bid both, maybe bid the conversion as the gas oil as an alternate, and then make the decision after you see the
Right.
numbers on it.
And the thing is, are you gonna keep these oil tanks full while we're using gas, or are they gonna be empty, or what's the story? Are we gonna invest
Right
money?
now, it's not a good practice to leave a diesel tank
Right, so
empty.
Right,
It's actually better to keep it full.
right, but then we gotta put 10,000 gallons or whatever, even if halfway, 5,000 gallons of fuel in there. That's a considerable amount of money also.
Correct.
I mean, how many times is there actual gas interruption?
We don't know, we have not seen anything at either Jerome Harrison or
Because we
at
have
the
this-
intermediate school
Right.
or at the auditorium
Right.
with gas failing. The only thing that you have is if parts of the boiler unit, there's a lot more of active parts in a gas-fired unit. You have regulators and you have diaphragms, you have electronically controlled valving that you don't have with an oil-fired boiler. So if a part of that system went down, then you would lose the boiler until you got it fixed.
Right.
If you had the oil conversion, if you lost a regulator or you lost an electronic valve, you could just switch over to oil and run on the oil
Right,
side.
but I mean, how long does it take to get a part for the boiler and get it up and running? Hours.
That's unknown.
Right.
That's unknown.
Well, we have, we got a guy here.
Yeah, Mr. Mazier is here from Southern Connecticut Gas.
It seems to me, even if we put 5,000 gallons of oil in this tank, we're at $3 a gallon, we're talking $15,000 sitting in the tank, just in case. So we need to weigh the options a little better, I think.
Well, you got 2 neighboring schools that are running on gas for a few years and haven't had a problem yet.
Well,
so
I know gas is very reliable, that's what I'm kind of getting at, but
I would like to bid dual, but if gas comes in cheaper, go straight gas.
well, we'll look at it, obviously, and we'll try and make the best decision we can. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you for clearing that up, Bill, thank you. Mr. Mazier.
I would just like to clarify, I'm John Maziar from Southern Connecticut Gas. Just clarify the interruptible that you brought up, okay? The contract that your attorney is looking at now for the town hall and soon one for the high school, contract for us to bring the gas pipe and the meters to both of these buildings, includes the fact that we would be giving you firm gas service, which means that you're guaranteed to have gas service, no interruptions. Okay, that's part of our stipulations with our regulatory agency. All of our firm gas customers have the ability to be able to know that we have to guarantee gas service to them. The only downtime that you could possibly be concerned with is if we had that interruption through some act of the gas line being ripped up by a construction company or something of that nature, which again gets replaced immediately. So the word interruption, we do have an interruptible gas rate, in which is very few customers that are on it anymore because it's just not economically feasible. That's a higher cost of gas. That interruptible would allow you to go both the gas or oil, okay, with a dual fuel system. However, we would not install the gas services to either of these buildings if a customer was interested in interruptible fuel. So what I'm saying to you is, with the contract that your attorney is looking at and that we have, we're willing to bring the gas service to your building just like we did to the intermediate school, okay, and like the elementary school has and has had for some time, on a firm gas basis, meaning the commitment is that you would use gas on a firm basis all the time, and we in turn would bring that gas service to your buildings at no cost to you. So that's the stipulation. We would not entertain that if you were interested in an interruptible rate.
Okay, good.
In which the interruptible rate would mean you have the ability to burn either gas or oil at your choice, looking at the competitive prices. And the pricing on interruptible is no longer favorable compared to firm straight gas. And in addition to the firm straight gas, and I think I mentioned this to Bonnie also, somewhere down the road, when this does take place, you also have the opportunity to select a supplier of gas other than Southern Connecticut Gas, just like you do on the electric side. And the reason you do that would be better cost. So you've got an opportunity to look at that also, and that is certainly a favorable either way. It is a competitive situation for us. However, it gives you an opportunity to look at saving some money that way too. But the firm gas versus interruptible is a very important point with that. Okay?
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay? Yeah.
Thank you. John, you reviewed these?
I've reviewed the contract, I've made comments to the town manager, and also spoke with the gentleman who was just speaking today.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to allow the interim town manager, Bonnie Therian, to sign any agreements with Southern Connecticut Gas to allow for the zero-cost installation of natural gas lines to the North Branford Town Hall, as long as the town attorney reviews and approves any agreements.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wentworth. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth,
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni,
Yes.
Counselor Caprio,
Yes.
Counselor Duty,
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Sienna,
Yes.
Okay, item B, gas conversion kit, natural gas to the North Branford High School. Thanks, Bill.
I'd like to make the motion to allow the interim town manager, Bonnie Therian, to sign any agreements with Southern Connecticut Gas to allow for the zero-cost installation of natural gas lines to the North Branford High School, as long as the town attorney reviews and approves any agreements.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wentworth. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth,
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni,
Yes.
Counselor Caprio,
Yes.
Counselor Duty,
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Sienna.
Yes.
The second part of this motion regards the funding for the conversion at the high school, the boiler part of it. I just have a question for Anthony first. The money that the Board of Ed gave back to the town, they broke it down into two particles. I mean, they have 47,540, 59, and then 17,840, 299 as unencumbered. But isn't that all going into one fund?
I had a discussion or email with Don today because this item was on the agenda, as well as the first payments coming due for that replacement truck. They wanted to know what the dollar amount was they were looking at. His response was that they have put aside, they're about $70,000 under budget. So he's looking at it as one number. What he responded to me, about $70,000 coming.
All into the capital
fund, right.
Into the capital
Which
fund.
will go for you guys for formal authorization and.
Okay,
Right.
all right. And how much is the truck payment?
I think between 13 and 18,000.
Between 13 and 18,000?
Yeah, I don't know the exact number.
Okay.
It's a three-year payment, I believe it's like $13,000 or $18,000, rings a bell.
Okay.
So that plus the number here should be enough to come under the $70,000 number.
Right, but we don't really need to, how can we approve a dollar amount if we don't know what the dollar amount of it is until the bids go out and come back. So can't we just make a motion to approve the use of that fund
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would
Right.
do that and then come back with the firm numbers and get your.
once the building committee
Sure.
goes out and everything? Okay,
Makes sense.
all right. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the use of the 1% capital board budget to purchase a gas conversion kit and/or gas oil burner for the high school to be overseen by the Permanent Project Building Committee.
Second.
Question, did I misunderstand the gentleman, or did he say if we put in a dual burner, they're not gonna run the line for free?
No,
No.
no, he said if we don't commit to
A firm.
use of the gas
Right.
or using uninterruptible, we have dual burner in the other school as well. So that, I believe, yeah, those lines still going up free. Okay.
Thank you.
I think the motion was written that way so that the building committee has the leeway to
That's
bid.
fine.
Yeah.
I just didn't
Yeah,
want to
sure.
jeopardize the benefit we're gonna get from the gas company.
Okay. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth,
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni,
Yes,
Counselor Caprio,
Yes.
Counselor Duty,
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Tiana.
Yes.
Item C, excuse me, updates to defined benefit plan documents, police union table, July 9th, 2012.
We're almost there. There is 2 little items still in question, so hopefully next week it will be resolved.
Thank
Yeah, I'll
you.
move to table. Oh, we don't need a motion.
No, you're good.
Okay.
Item 9, new business, discussion and action. Item A, 2012-2013 capital improvements program.
You have before you tonight the proposed capital improvement program. The most important page, as you all know, is on page 6, which is the current year's plans. The page is very similar to the page that's in your adopted budget, with the exception of the italicized and bolded numbers. The top one being the $6,000 to replace the remaining 2 wall HVAC units in this building. Jumping down to the public safety section, you know, it's $50,000 as part of the simulcast system being put in for police, fire, and public works. There are some improvements needed to the Reeds Gap Road Tower. That has to be put in there. Down in the public works section, you'll see the second item, the Sander building. That was originally budgeted at $500,000. Latest estimates are $550,000. Jumping down to culture recreation, you see $40,000 as a new item. The various tennis courts and basketball courts throughout town are in need of repair, and this is an estimate that was obtained by Pam Gary to go in and refurbish all the courts at a cost of $40,000. So again, this page being the primary page, the rest of the pages are for your guidance and for looking at different thoughts down the road. Nothing obviously is concrete. The next step in this process is to send it to Planning and Zoning for an 824 referral. Standard practice, they will then review it and render a decision. It'll come back to your body again for ultimate ratification. So the motion tonight is to send it to P&Z for an 824 referral.
So are only things coming out of the bolded items?
Those are the new items from when you approved at the budget time.
What about the other items there?
Well,
I don't think the council agreed to $2,200,000 in bond funding.
that's a very good point. When we met with the Finance Committee, in that bonded fund column, thank you for reminding me of that, Mike. There are items in that bond fund columns that you have some discretion over, and there are a couple that, quite honestly, you don't have discretion over, to be blunt. As you go down the top, that $112,000, certainly you have discretion over that whole police garage and addition concept. Are you going to fund it, do it, is it regional dispatch? So that you have discretion on. The next 2 being the police department radio narrow banding upgrade, $300,000, again to meet federal mandates. the $50,000 to do the simulcast system. Without that third leg in the simulcast system, it doesn't work. So those two you basically have very little discretion over. Jumping down to Public Works, do you finish the other half of Fran's building? It's a decision you guys need to make. The $20,000 to do narrow banding on Public Works equipment, again, not really much discretion there. The $40,000, you can close the tennis courts down, I guess would be your discretionary item there. They are getting to the point where next step would be to get serious looking at closing them down due to trip hazards. And then the last one, obviously, the large item being the balance of the North Branford High School roof work that was discussed last year. That certainly is discretionary if you want to go down that road. What would happen is we're going to out in the bond market, to be on the bond market in November as the notes come due from the intermediate school. We could, whatever you guys decide is the final number, we could increase those notes and get some short-term money in, do the projects, and then bond them hopefully a year from now when we bond the rest of the middle school. So it says bonds, it would actually be bands, bond anticipation notes this November for whichever one of these projects you guys agree to, and then we would bond it permanently a year from now. So if you want to do one at a time, or how you want to.
And what's the $60,000 financial software?
That was when you guys approved last year to go to a Windows-based software finally.
Right, and it's 60,000?
It's $59,855.
And that's for what, just the finance department, or that's for the whole town?
That brings it finance, purchasing, general ledger, payroll, accounts payable.
And everything's gonna be linked, is that tax department also?
Tax and the assessing departments went to the Windows version probably in the last 2 or 3 years. Now finance is going to catch up.
And all these systems are gonna be linked together?
It's all one vendor, it's
So
all.
we can run reports off the system and get reports for everything?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That is correct. So the purpose of the meeting last week was to try to get a tour to see if you wanted to proceed down that path with the police. I'm not sure how you want to handle that.
Well, the thing is, I saw on here in a couple of years, we're looking at moving the ambulance service to 909 Foxen Road. Is that what this says?
That was a proposal that was put forth. Again, future years out are
Right,
just
but
ideas.
what I'm thinking of, why are we gonna piecemeal everything? I would like to centralize everything, and I would like to put it on Forest Road where the police department is now. So if we could put the police and the ambulance together and centralize everything, and that's kind of halfway from Northford to North Branford.
Certainly.
It's not stuck on either side of town.
No.
I mean, we should look a little further into the future and plan things before we trip ourselves up by doing these little projects here and there. And then we end up with, I don't want to say a mess, but it could have been done a lot neater and probably cheaper and smarter. And we need to really look at these things and plan for the future. I mean, why would we want to stick the ambulance all the way down here now, when it's all the way up in Northford already?
Right.
Police station's in the middle of town, centralized services, one building for everybody.
Got 100 acres, might as well use it
We got a lot of
wisely.
land, yeah.
So I don't know how you want to proceed.
The ambulance building, we own, right?
That is correct.
So we could get that back on the tax rolls, possibly.
Well, there's an interesting wrinkle to that in the fact that it was eminent domain. So that'd be a question for the town attorney.
Okay.
But that was my whole deal in the beginning, was to centralize everything, do one library over there. Now we got 2 libraries on both ends of town, and everybody's still separated. It's just senseless.
I think we need some type
I
of
think,
organization.
yeah. I think, well, the school did a strategic plan years ago. I think before we approve any funding for anything, we should look at a strategic plan for the town.
We should be looking out 10 years at
We
least.
should look at a grant writer, part-time for the town, because there's still so many grants out there that other communities are getting, we're not getting. And even if we take some excess money that's sitting in recreation or sitting in, the assessor's office or whatever, and just, get started on a plan, so we know what we have to do with. I mean, there should be a study done, to see what we could do here to offset some of the cost.
I got you.
So,
To go back to the underlying premise is that we're going to go out in the bond market in November. So of the 3, 6, 7 items there, are there any you feel comfortable with doing at this go-round that we should include?
Franny getting new trucks this year?
He's getting
Part of the
the
lease.
lease purchase, you guys approved
Right,
that.
how many trucks, 2 or 3? or
He's
something
getting
like
3 trucks, a used forklift, and a new mower.
that? Okay, so now, we're gonna have these new trucks out in the elements if we don't build this building, and,
Well, this truck, these are usually for the larger trucks.
Right.
The snow fighters.
right,
The smaller trucks typically are, they're outside anyway, or
Right.
they're in the garage, but you're right. This building is for the snow fighters, when you
how
first
old
come
are
in.
those trucks?
We haven't bought him a truck in a while.
Yeah, okay.
We haven't bought him a truck in a while. So-
And then we're specing a truck for the Board of Ed, I believe.
Right, in that lease purchase deal,
Lease
there's the Board
purchase,
of Ed
right.
truck. Exactly.
And then there was also, I think, a rescue.
Right, there's a rescue and an ambulance remount in
Right.
the lease package. It was four items: Board of Ed technology, public works equipment, ambulance remount, and a rescue truck.
The rescue truck's all ordered and,
No.
when is that gonna be going through?
That still has to be approved by the Board of Fire Commissioners still.
I think the only thing, as Anthony said, is you've got some mandates in here, such as the narrow banding and the Reed's Gap Road Tower improvements, and that's public safety issues. The only other safety item, again, a decision would be the rec tennis courts, because they are in bad shape.
They are in bad shape, and our kids use all that stuff a lot.
But these only include the intermediate school in Northford Park, nothing at Stanley T?
No, I think, as far as I know, it's everything.
Well, because I only saw
I
for
only saw
Northford Park
Northford Park,
and
too.
intermediate school.
I don't think Stanley TV.
5 courts and then 2 courts. And that's what is at the intermediate is 5, Northford Park is 2, but Stanley T has 4 courts.
Pam was gonna be here about, I don't know if she's here or not, if not. I mean, we can include those if they're not, but we'd have to.
Because I don't
Right.
think the 40,000 is enough to do.
Right.
Originally, I think that's what we talked about in finance, and we were told they were all of them, but in looking through everything, it doesn't look like it's all of them. So I am hesitant on that.
Well, can we get some more information on it and bring it out to the next meeting, because it's only next week that we're meeting again,
On those items in particular, or anything else?
on everything.
On bonded, on the bonding funds.
Okay.
Table the whole motion then tonight?
Yeah, till next week, yeah.
I just have one question. I don't know, Anthony, if you could answer, or maybe Bonnie, but I noticed on some of these capital projects, like there's warranties for units on parts. Is there any warranty on labor, or is it strictly just for the,
For,
Which item?
well, anything? I mean, normally if you have someone install a furnace or a part, if there's faulty labor or something happens, it could void getting the warranty on the part. And like, for instance, I don't want to say the name of the company, but there's a 12,000 BTU, 9,000 BTU unit being put in. The new units include, there will be a 2-year warranty on all parts. There will be an additional 3-year warranty from Eisenhower on compressor parts only, but it doesn't list any type of warranty or guarantee on labor, or is that normal, or?
it depends on the project. I've seen it both ways. I mean, certainly that's something in the final contract we can negotiate with anyone, but it really depends on the type of project.
Yeah. So I would think like on a project like this, it would be maybe, you know, some type of warranty on labor to make sure it's installed properly.
Pam just came in, or we can wait till the next meeting. I mean, if you wanted to ask about the
No, we could
Williams
ask.
tennis courts.
Hi, Pam. Pam, would you mind coming up 1 sec? Thank you.
Pam, there's just a question on the pricing that was received for the CIP for the tennis courts basketball. Does that include Stanley Williams, the 40,000?
No.
It does not. Do we have a ballpark?
Stanley Williams hasn't been, we haven't had an estimate in years. It's been closed for about 5 years, I think. And I think the last estimate was, actually Mike Betts was here at one point. And then we went back out and it was 18,000 only for a couple courts. And then it was the whole kit and caboodle, I think it was over 30. But I don't have a new one now. We contacted Dalton's to do another one, but they never got back to us on it. But it doesn't include that.
Because I know it's used in the summertime.
Stanley Williams?
Yes.
It's not supposed to be open to the public.
No, it's not, well, it's open to the camp.
Camp and to, right, to.
So
ordinance.
it is open to that confined public, so it's still open, and I know there's supervision there.
There's 2 courts that are okay, and the other 3 are not.
Right.
So we'll try to get pricing for next week if we can do it that fast.
On page 14,
Yep.
if we look there, it does state, you want to look at that. Is that part of the bid spec?
That's probably my mistake.
Yeah, that's.
But it isn't, we'll try to get pricing. I don't know if I can do it this fast, but we'll try to see if we
Yeah,
can
that's
get
The only 2 ways
Okay.
was to remove the rocks, and to remove the rocks underneath it
Right.
was a huge, huge project.
Right, okay.
So we spent about 18,000, and it didn't go deep enough, and that's why
Right.
the rocks came up again.
Right, I know we've been like fixing cracks.
And they did do the rock removal, but there was 2 specs to it. It was the 18,000 and there was like a 35,000, and that's when Mike Betts was here. We went for the 18,000, and it only lasted us a couple of years.
Does anyone else have any questions for Pam? Pam, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to table this whole report until next week so we can get more information.
Second.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Wentworth, seconded by Councilor Angeloni to table this. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Duty?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Tiana?
Yes.
Okay. Before I go on to item B, I'm sorry, I wanted to recognize the Eagle Scouts that came this evening and welcome you all. If you want to stand up for a moment.
I don't think they're Eagle Scouts.
Or Cub Scouts?
Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts.
Boy Scouts. I was corrected, Boy Scouts.
The Boy Scouts that are working on becoming
Right.
Got covered everything.
Item B, bid results for demolition of Amados.
This is an item that I think you've talked about for quite a while. We did finally go out to bid for that, and we received actually quite a good result for bidders. Right now, the low bidder is Don's Landscaping and Tree Service at $11,600. Basically, if you decide to move forward with this, we would need to take the funds from a contingency or fund balance and then lien the property so that you receive the dollars back when the property was sold. It's something that's done by many communities across the state when you have an eyesore like this. If the person and the property owner isn't going to do anything about it, certainly the town has the right, and of course we have the judge that has already approved that we can go in and have that taken down and then lien the property.
John, could we foreclose on it after we put the lien on it and then get it sold and take our money?
30
Because I don't want to wait 20 years for our money.
30 days after the lien is put on, if it's not paid, we can commence foreclosure.
John, did you confirm that the mortgage has been satisfied with insurance money?
Yes, I think that's actually in the.
I saw it in some of the notes.
It's about, yeah, I spoke with the attorneys, and the insurance company paid the mortgagees approximately $720,000.
So the only thing on the property then is our tax lien?
There's a,
No.
I read in here there's a lien for about $13,000 from somebody.
That's right.
Yeah, I have them all here. Yep.
So other than a small lien, the property is basically free and clear?
We haven't done a title search on it, but it would seem to be that would be the case. There should be substantial equity to.
I notice in a number of these bids, there are exceptions for various unforeseen conditions. And there were 1 or 2 bids with no exceptions. Do we shift the burden to them and view the fact that we now seem to have some equity in this property as opposed to 6 months ago when we thought we were back for a $750,000 mortgage? Do we look at these bids a little bit differently?
Okay.
Well, I don't know what the bid specs provided for, but for this to be a a fair competition. Those who submitted bids did so based on the specs, and of course our only inquiry is to pick the lowest responsible bidder, and responsible can take us into a number of areas, not the least of which is this the type of business that a particular vendor does or company does, are they licensed, prior experiences.
Well, if they're all the same, that's fine, but I don't read them that way, because the one that we're saying is the lowest bidder has an exception for underground oil tank to remain, garage and barn to remain, et cetera. The next guy has an exception for driveway and parking area, must be of a condition to bear the weight of his trucks. So everybody's got some sort of an exception on their bid. I don't know what the bid specifications were, but everybody's got a different exception. I really don't want
Michelle's here.
any
She'll
exceptions. I want this thing
address that.
down and out.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
Michelle, can you maybe address that? Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Michelle Knockwood, Purchasing Assistant for the town. When the specifications went out, there was a defined area that we had at the mandatory walkthrough, that anything within the fence where the building stands is what is to come down. When he says as far as the barns and so forth, everybody was of the understanding that those barns would remain.
Yeah, they're fine, that's not a concern.
The tank that's underground will remain no matter who bid on the project. He's just clarifying that he's not going to remove the tank, which is what we told all of the contractors when they came to the walkthrough. Kurt was there, Tom, and myself. So it's very clear what was to come down, obviously the building and the contents and so forth in that fenced area, and nothing else was to be touched. So as far as any outer buildings that may be on the property, they are to remain as such. The underground tank, no matter who bid on it, was with the understanding that that underground tank would remain there. So he's just clarifying what we told them at the walkthrough.
All right, but what I'm asking is, let's put aside the prices for a second. You got bid number 3, is Adcon Environmental, exceptions none. Does that mean that building goes away, that eyesore is gone, the ground is stabilized in some fashion, and we're done? As opposed to bid number 1, which is the low bid, that does take exception for any unforeseen rock or ledge. Are we going to get an additional bill for either blasting or removal of rock or ledge?
There should be no rock or ledge to come out of there. Kurt and
Yeah,
I,
the foundations are
They're
basically to remain. What we're trying to do
It's clean
hopefully
debris.
to clean up the
Debris.
burnt building and structure, leave the foundations and just fence it off. We're trying to get in there, you know, from a safety standpoint, to clean it up. But we're not totally redoing the site.
So are you both comfortable we're not going to get a bill for any additional costs?
No, because there's nothing, the only thing they have to do to that foundation is poke some holes in it so that the water can drain.
drainage.
Because once they take the structure out,
There's plenty of water going in there now, there's no structure left.
Yeah, but that structure, there's actually, the deck is still pretty intact. That has to come out, but they have to poke some holes in it so there's drainage, so you don't have water sitting in the concrete floor. It's a minimalist type of approach to clean it up. It's not like we're trying to make it a pristine site. We're just trying to get rid of demo.
It's similar what they did on Route 80 with the Auttac building. That foundation is still there. The front building is still there. And I know they did poke, I think, a few holes in the concrete. So they took away all that major debris and left that behind the foundation. So I think that is similar.
Yeah, it's something that the building official looked at, Sam Morrow looked at, myself. And we all try to sort of set down to get it so it's a safe situation, but not so we spend a ton of money that, you know, that we were concerned of all along in terms of whether we ever.
Right, and what did you say the finished product is going to be like? There's a basement there, so.
Yeah, I mean, all that'll be cleaned out. There'll be the foundation walls will remain.
Yeah.
And then that fence will be put up around the perimeter of the foundation walls, so that there's a barrier, a physical barrier.
Okay.
By the fence, they have to put the fence in in a, you know, workmanlike manner so that they last there. But, you know, there will be a foundation, there will be a drop off, and that's why that fence is being put there.
But you check, did you check references on number 1, and does he have a demo permit and
He
everything?
has a subcontractor called Malaco Construction. He holds the license to do the demo work. And I did do references on them and Don's, since the contractor will be with Don's, not the subcontractor. But all the references came back very good. I also did a reference check on environmental services, which is basically one-stop shopping. They do everything, abatement and so forth. Before an award is made, we will sit with Don's and Malaco Construction, Kurt, Tom, Fran, and myself, and be sure that they fully understand the scope of the work before an award is made, and if not, then call him as not responsible, responsive bidder, and then move on to the second one. But I've spoken with Don's numerous times, and I've gotten reference checks on Malaco through the city of Milford. They've worked with them for over 30 years and said he's as good as gold. There's absolutely no problem with the work that he does.
Is there a bond on this job or no?
There's a bid bond and then there's a performance bond once it's awarded.
Okay.
And it's 100% of the contract.
Okay. There's just so many varying numbers.
It was amazing to see what the numbers
Yeah,
were.
yeah, the numbers vary,
It
so.
does make you wonder what they're thinking.
Exactly, that's, I mean, for 11.6 to clean that up, if they can do it.
It was 40, about 3 months, 4 months
Right.
ago, right?
Right.
Yeah, well.
If you wanted to move forward, Mayor, I do have a sample ordinance motion you can look at. Because at the time when this went out, I still had Michelle checking the second notice bid.
So the back taxes that are owed on this property, so we've liened the property, but we could foreclose if we wanted to on the back taxes?
You can foreclose, if there's a tax lien on the property now, you can foreclose on the property now. And if you are successful, you'll take it subject to your own lien for the cost of cleaning up the property.
Yeah, wait till this
So
is done.
you might as well get this all taken care of, I would think.
So the only thing you may want to add to the end of that is, and also to foreclose within 30 days of the lien being placed or something like that.
I'll make the motion to award the demolition of mottos at 734th Road as outlined in the bid specifications to Don's Landscaping and Tree Service LLC of 43 Hilltop Road, Orange, Connecticut, in the amount not to exceed $11,600 to be taken from contingency account. And furthermore, that the town manager will cause there to be a lien in the final demolition cost to the property, and to basically foreclose on the property within 30 days
That's the placement of the lien, yep.
of the placement of the lien,
In accordance with the judgment of the court.
in accordance with the judgment of the court received by the town of North Branford.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Duty, seconded by Counselor Fawnin. Is there any further discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Duty?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Sienna?
Yes.
Okay, item 9C, renovation of Stanley T. Williams School to a community center.
We are very pleased to bring to you a recommendation from the Permanent Building Committee to award the Phase 1 work for the renovation of the Williams School to Olympus Construction for an amount not to exceed $462,800. As you are aware, we have some steep money. We've also applied for a second grant. We haven't heard from that yet. If that does move forward, we could then do kind of some Phase 2 work. This amount of the bid really covered the base bid itself with a few, changes. For example, the portable kind of retractor screen so that the senior center rooms can be cut off. We'll still be able to add into that. We were waiting to hear back from the state to make sure our bid specs and the bid awards were okay. They replied last week that everything looked good, so we can now move forward. And I'm very, very happy that we are able to do that. And we have with us tonight Jim and Dan, Pino from Olympus, and also Michael's here from Salamone, and then Michelle Lockwood. So if you have any questions, we got the whole gang here, but we're very, very happy we can move forward with this.
I would like to make a motion to award Phase 1 bid of the community center renovations to Olympus Construction of 77 Cherry Street in Milford in an amount not to exceed $493,000.
Second.
Moved by
Wait,
Councilor.
the bid is 462.8, isn't it?
We got 493 on our motion.
But they also want to use, I think.
There's some for contingency.
Right, there's some for
$1,000
contingency in there.
Contingency, I think.
Right, the total funding for the project is $493,000.
Got it, it's down in the middle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, motion by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Councilor Duty. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth,
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni,
Yes.
Counselor Caprio,
Yes.
Counselor Duty,
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Sienna.
Yes.
Item D, local bidders preference ordinance.
This was an item that you had discussed actually a number of times. The Finance Committee took a look at it at their last meeting, and they're recommending that you move forward, with a simple ordinance, nothing that has to be too lengthy, with a 10% threshold is their recommendation. So that if a local bidder comes in, they are allowed to match, if they're within 10%, they then kind of match the low bidding amount. And if so, then they would receive that particular bid. If you did want to move forward with it, it's something that we should add as a public hearing on October 16th. And we actually, which I didn't put in here, we should add it to the town ordinances as a part of your purchasing. I checked with Attorney Jesman on that, the purchasing ordinance, so that we would amend it as a part of Chapter 84, 11, and J, and then add number 3, and it would be put into there. So I think this kind of covers what you were talking about to try to overcome some of the issues of the
I'd
local
like to hear it out of the
businesses.
public hearing, give it consideration.
Absolutely.
I'd like to move that we hold a public hearing on Tuesday, October 16, 2012, at 7:30 PM to hear public comment on the proposed ordinance providing for local preference. For bidders? Should I add for bidders on there? I only know what it's for.
We've got to call just local preference.
Okay.
And it would be added to Chapter 8411J and a new section
You
3.
could call it the same as the subject, local bidders preference ordinance, if you want.
Okay,
that's
ordinance,
it.
add ordinance at the end, yeah. That's fine,
And this way they know.
yeah.
I'll
Second.
Okay.
Motion by Deputy Mayor Wentworth, seconded by Councilor Angeloni. Roll call? Wait,
Mayor Candelora.
one moment.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Your motion needs to be, make a motion, a proposed ordinance to amend Chapter 84 purchasing,
Okay,
not
so
another proposed ordinance like you're doing.
Pardon?
proposed ordinance.
Make the motion.
Rescind the motion.
84-11, J is
Chapter 84,
Chapter 84,
entitled purchasing.
entitled purchasing.
Motion, yeah,
Okay,
your
I'll-
motion should be to amend.
Okay.
The local bidders, or to add.
Well, it's an amendment to Chapter 84 purchasing
We
to
already have-
include this.
We already have an ordinance.
Right, we're just adding to it.
You're amending it, you're going to add a section.
Okay.
We've got a purchasing ordinance, we don't have anything that gives a local guy
Right,
preference.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We're going to add that to the purchasing
Or amend
ordinance.
it, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Lisa.
Do we have to rescind our, or you got it?
Probably
just-
should to make it clean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to move that, make a motion to hold a public hearing on Tuesday, October 16, 2012, at 7:30 PM to hear public comments on the proposed ordinance amending 84-11, Chapter 84,
Chapter 84 purchasing.
Chapter 84 purchasing for local preference.
Second.
Motion by Deputy Mayor Wentworth, seconded by Councilor Fawnin. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth,
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni,
Yes.
Counselor Caprio,
Yes.
Counselor Duty,
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Sienna,
Yes.
Item E, blight ordinance draft.
At your last meeting, you had requested that you take a look at the last blight ordinance that you had been reviewing. Attorney Jesmond sent that to me. This was back in 2004. If anything, I'd like some feedback from you so I could then sit with the staff and come back to you with something. These ordinances can be wonderful and they can be awful, depending on who's going to enforce this, you know, how it's written, how it's used. So you got to be a little careful with these. Many times the town becomes part of a neighbor versus neighbor, and it can become pretty ugly. So I just want to make sure that I get your feedback, and then I'll sit with relevant staff and make sure we feel okay with whatever we'll bring back.
Now, there's a couple abandoned houses in Northford that are deplorable in shape.
Mhm.
One on Blue Trails Drive, that people just walked away and the bank owns it,
Oh,
but the
yeah.
bank's not doing anything with it, so.
That's exactly the type of situation that a blight ordinance would reach.
Right.
There's an overlap to some extent. For instance, you don't need a blight ordinance, obviously, to do what we did on the mottos. We were able to go into court on the basis of violations of the building code. The building code violations leads to an injunction. Also, you have power as a town to exercise your police power to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the community, and that clearly implicated that. We condemned and took down another antique building right across the street from the post office in Northford that was allowed to deteriorate because we did not intervene at some earlier stage. And in fact, we have another antique house right across from the old Mill Pond Tavern that has been deteriorating on 17, and that's a high-profile location. So I agree with Bonnie, however, that you don't want to get into a situation where somebody's neighbor is calling up that the neighbor painted their house purple polka dots, or that their lawn hasn't been mowed for 2 months or something. That's not what this is about. But if you look at the second page where it says definition of blighted premises, probably all but number 1 would be something less than what you see with the mottos. In other words, number 1 is pretty much talks about a life-threatening condition and serious danger. We don't need an ordinance probably for that because, as I said, we have that police power that we can exercise. But number 2, you're getting into premises that are inadequately maintained or unsightly. They're boarded up with windows and doors. 3 talks about code violations. And 4, because of its unsightliness and because of its condition, it actually is interfering with the reasonable and lawful use and enjoyment of the space and the area. So it is dangerous. Again, we want to be particular about it, but it does give you some ability to intervene in a situation that is less than the Amato situation, less than a deteriorating, falling down building, and more than just a piece of property where people are trying to maintain it the best they can. We're talking about a property that really is perhaps actually affecting the economic value of neighboring properties, even a whole section of the town. I mean, I think you could say that for Amatos in one respect, but there may be properties in, if I may say, better condition than Amatos that could have that same impact. And we probably could have intervened on that property in Northford across from the post office before it had to be removed. So it's something to look at. It didn't succeed.
I think you might need a little bit more. The house I'm talking about is basically been abandoned since, you know.
But this address is abandoned. That's another reason why you would do
But
this.
it doesn't really say that in here, it's abandoned. You know, the lawn hasn't been mowed all year. The trees and branches are still down from the storms that we had. Under definition of blighted properties.
I get definition of blighted premises.
I scanned it, I didn't see where it says. It doesn't have missing windows, it doesn't have missing roof or doors, but, I mean,
It's describing the building, John.
Oh, you're talking about the building. I'm looking for that. Yeah, it's not here, but abandonment, abandoned buildings, definitely in the purpose, in the first paragraph in the purpose, it refers to properties containing vacant and blighted buildings. I know that in other parts, it refers to abandoned buildings as well. And that would be, that would be a good example of when you want to step in if there's nobody there, and it's just waiting to become decrepit.
maybe it just has to be, the definition has to be addressed a little bit better to cover abandoned.
Sure.
If somebody looks at the definition of a blighted premise and says, well, you know, the fact that they abandon it, they're not mowing their lawn, the trees are coming down all over the property.
That's, if you also look in section D, called enforcement and hearings with property owners, the fourth line in determining if it's blighted, whether such property has been determined to be abandoned, and setting a date for a hearing and so on. But I agree, abandonment probably should be moved into the definition section as well. That's a typical piece of property that we should be looking at.
I think our main problem is foreclosures and abandonments.
Right.
You know, and that's what we need to address because we have a lot of them and we need to get these.
If you've seen this piece of property, you definitely drive down the street, you know it's
You know something, they're all over town. They're all over this side, they're on Northford, they're everywhere, and it's a shame. But if the banks own them or whoever owns them, we should start holding them accountable instead of letting them go.
And that's what this would do.
If I'm not mistaken, when they go into less pendants, do they file with you, Lisa? Not all the time, some.
Sometimes, yeah, but the foreclosure, there is a state law that says they have to file within 15 days. But the problem with the lease pendants is that's just a civil action. It doesn't necessarily mean the property is foreclosed upon.
Right.
But after it's actually foreclosed upon, they have to file it again. And those are the ones you want. Those are the ones we get copies of.
But Lisa, are you refusing to accept list pendants without a filing?
I can't. They did not put that enforcement in the law.
Well, wait a minute. Every time I file list pendants, if I don't give them that certification and tell them who the contact person is with a phone number or an email or something, I get it kicked back to me.
Can't. It's not in the law. The law actually says.
Well, this has been a big thing at the COG.
I know. What I do is I usually will, when I mail back the deed, I mail a copy of the form. Sometimes the attorneys mail them back, sometimes they don't. There's no enforcement in the law.
I have found that they're taking them, but they do tell you they want the form.
Yeah.
And I would assume most people would cooperate. Apparently not.
Not with the list pendants, more so with the foreclosure.
I know that's been a problem with other towns, too. They're not enforcing it.
I think if we could clear that up, then we could
Yeah,
probably
this is
move for a public hearing next.
Right. This is an intermediate step where the town gets to make the owners, whether it's a bank or a homeowner, take care of the property, improve the property where it needs to be improved. And in the absence of that, there are penalties. So I don't know whether you want to have a public hearing first or whether you want to have Bonnie have that meeting with the staff who are out, that might be, that might be more.
That way, if there's issues that we may not be able to handle, I can come back with you or amendments with them. You could do it that way.
On the back, on the last page, it has about the enforcement, and under the first item, it has that the town manager shall impose a penalty of not more than $99. How do you determine what the penalty is? I mean, would you want to have a flat rate so that everyone is treated equally, or you just,
I know
or how
most
did you come
towns,
up?
they have that $99 amount. You know what, we don't want the penalties, we want compliance. And most of the time, you know, I always used to say, give me a schedule, keep to the schedule. If you can't keep to the schedule, keep in touch with me. And if they did that, fine, but if they were just blatantly ignoring you, it would depend. I mean, it was just, you know, minor things, then I might go halfway. I mean, it is a discretionary. But if it's like the whole building, like what Counselor Duty was talking about, and they're just ignoring, then I'm going for 100, or 99 per day. That usually will wake them up, but
Okay.
not always. And then we have to go to court, and then we collect all this back money. But
There's, you know, depending on how you fall on this subject also, there's also a certain built-in, I guess you'd have to say, embarrassment to the situation. We're talking about publishing lists. We're talking about coming before the town council with the list. The town manager would prepare a list. It goes to the town council. The town council could add or take away from it. It's analogous to scofflaws who don't pay their taxes. But there also may be people whose circumstances are so unfortunate that it's not a willful thing. But clearly, that's one of the, you know, parenthetical sanctions here that, you know, maybe I'm overstating it because, as Mike says, the person who owns the house obviously knows that everybody else is seeing that house. And if you live in the neighborhood, you know who owns or last owned the house. But there are a lot of, there's that pressure of notoriety and of having a home or having a piece of property that you've let go, and the community has taken note of that and is putting pressure on you to remedy it.
Well, in this case, they walked away from it, and the bank owns it now, so.
You have a better chance of getting it repaired with the bank.
I mean, the bank is just, it's just sitting there. I know there's been showings on the house, but that's it.
what address was it again, Counselor?
It's on Blue Trails Drive.
Thank you.
A lot of this is a matter of safety and welfare as well. I mean, you know, I know there's
Can't miss it.
several, I know there's quite a few of the homes that we've seen. And I recall Councilor Caprio brought up at one of our last meetings, John, what happens like one of these empty houses, a tree or, you know, something from the house falls, let's say a chimney, and damages someone's property next door? That's really something they take up at the bank or whoever, right? That's got.
Well, whoever owns the property is going to be liable to an adjacent landowner a tree is a different situation.
Right.
That has nothing to do with the condition of the house. That could happen to anybody, and you will be liable if your tree or the tree on your property falls in such a way as to damage somebody else's house. But the main concern, I think, is that these houses that are abandoned and are in unsafe conditions are frankly attractive nuisances to young people who may seek them out or even homeless people. And I don't mean to derogate or denigrate homeless people, but it creates a problem. It's a societal problem, but it's a problem.
All right, so we should refer it to Bonnie to go over it with the staff.
And then I'll talk to the staff and get it back to you as soon as possible.
Okay. Do we need a motion for that, or just?
No.
Good, okay. Item F, Communications Committee for the Town Council and Board of Education. About a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with the chairwoman and vice chair of the Board of Education and the superintendent, Bonnie, town manager, myself, Joanne, and Rose Angeloni. And we're talking about putting together a small committee of a few counselors to meet with the Board of Ed periodically to help open up the lines of communication so, you know, we know more of what's going on in each other's areas, and going on the walkthrough, we learned a lot of the buildings, and I think this can, really help move us forward. So I thought tonight I put it on here to see if we can put together a few people from the council that would be interested in sitting on this.
I'd be interested in serving on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would be interested.
Joe, you interested?
Yeah.
Oh, good. All right. So we have Joe, we have Joanne, Rose, and I'll certainly periodically drop in as an alternate as I can. And then, do you want to do it too?
Sure.
Yeah, Vinny?
To everybody.
Everybody. That's well, yeah, we got to be careful it's not a quorum,
you
but,
may have to-
right.
Couple alternates and a couple,
Would you and Vinnie want to be alternates?
I'll be an alternate, sure.
I'll be an alternate too.
Okay.
I can do that.
So, alternate. Then we have Joe.
All right, I'll just make the motion, then we can. Be it resolved that the North Branford Town Council agrees to form a communications committee consisting of 3 members of the Board of Education and 3 members of the Town Council and 2 alternates of the Town Council to improve communication between both parties, with the following 3 people serving as Town Council representatives: Deputy Mayor Joanne Wentworth, Councilor Rose Angeloni, and Councilor Joe Fawnin. The alternates are Mayor Anthony Candelora and Councilor Vinnie Caprio.
I'll second.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Councilor Fawnin. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth.
Yes.
Councilor Angeloni.
Yes.
Councilor Caprio.
Yes.
Councilor Duty.
Yes.
Councilor Fawnin.
Yes.
Councilor Sienna.
Yes.
Item G, appropriation transfers, 2011, 2012.
I'll move the suggested motion to resolve that the North Branford Town Council hereby approve the attached appropriation transfers as recommended by interim town manager and the treasurer finance director.
Second.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Wentworth, seconded by Councilor Angeloni. Is there any discussion? Okay. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth.
Yes.
Councilor Angeloni.
Yes.
Councilor Caprio.
Yes.
Councilor Duty.
Yes.
Councilor Fawnin.
Yes.
Councilor Sienna.
Yes.
Item H, contingency appropriation, 2011, 2012.
You want Anthony to do a quick summary, or?
Yeah.
There are 2 items in the 11-12 contingency appropriation listing. The first addresses the police department overtime. That, again, was highlighted throughout the year many times for you folks as the department is down, some vacancies, a couple of folks in training. The overtime was significant. And as I mentioned at finance last week, that situation is continuing this year as well. There still are 2 folks in the academy class now. There are 2 that are on field training officer status, working with seasoned veterans. So there are still there's still a manpower issue at the police department, and overtime will continue to be a big number this year. The second item is our estimate of the town's portion of the Hurricane Irene and Storm Alfred costs. I believe, as Bonnie had mentioned in a previous memo, we did receive the FEMA money, or at least the notification of the FEMA money confirmation, and I am applying for federal highway grants to try to reduce our out-of-pocket costs, but this is our best estimate at this point as to what our portion of the cost is going to be for last year for those 2 storms.
Is any of the police overtime because of the storms?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that was all charged to a separate pot of money.
Okay.
This is just regular police overtime issues.
Public Works overtime, yeah, what's that?
Contingencies? Are you on the transfer department transfers?
Yeah, we're on transfers.
No, we did transfer.
We did transfers already, then.
Oh,
We're up to contingencies.
I had it backwards.
There were 3 sheets of contingency, that's why there's 3 backup sheets on the contingency.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
That was redundancy, huh?
No, they're different.
The public works overtime is actually giving money, Ben.
Okay.
45,000, there was savings due to the mild winter last year.
Okay, so that's,
Giving money to the right, the left-hand side gives to the right-hand side.
okay.
So we'll read that.
Where'd that money go? Just general fund or?
No, it went to the right-hand side, went to other accounts of public works that were overexpended.
Okay.
Seasonal, uniform, equipment maintenance. You see that was like $14,600 equipment maintenance.
Right.
Those
Tree work.
departments that save money go to help those who are
Yeah.
having issues every year.
So the balance that's left over in contingency at the end of 11/12 just goes back into the undesignated fund balance?
That is correct.
Okay.
No. I'll move the one on the contingency transfers for the police overtime and.
The 11/12?
11/12, yeah.
A second?
Moved by Deputy Mayor Wentworth, seconded by Councilor Angeloni. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Caprio.
Yes.
Counselor Duty.
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Sienna.
Yes.
I'll also move the contingency transfers for 2012 and 2013.
Second?
Moved by Deputy Mayor Wentworth, seconded by Councilor Angeloni. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Caprio.
Yes.
Counselor Duty.
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Sienna.
Yes.
Item J, Finance Report, August 31st, 2012.
Before you tonight, you have the financial report. You have the expanded version that typically only goes to Finance Committee, ended up in your packet. But the same items that I focus on every month, the very top line, property tax collections. Current year, 51.5% of budget. Last year, 51.4%, so 0.1% ahead of last year. Total revenues, 40.1% this year compared to 39.6% last year. Another positive sign. On the bottom, look at the expenditures. You'll notice in total, it appears to be significantly out of whack, 18.6% last year compared to 15.2%. But look at the line right above that. That's the Board of Education, 11.9% this year compared to 6.8% last year. I think that was a timing of a lump sum payment that is made for fuel, but I have to check on that. There's no departments overexpended as of yet. That's still very early in the year, so the report is unremarkable.
As of yet.
I'll move we accept the finance report as presented.
And can we get a monthly report on our suspense list too?
Certainly.
Okay, I would like that. I'd like to see that every month.
Okay. Any other? Motion by Deputy Mayor Wentworth, seconded by Councilor Angeloni. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Caprio.
Yes.
Counselor Duty.
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Sienna.
Yes.
Item K, approval of tax refunds.
I'll move the approval of tax refund.
Somebody move?
Yeah.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Duty, seconded by Councilor Fawnin. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Caprio.
Yes.
Counselor Duty.
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Sienna.
Yes.
And if I could, I'd make the full suspense list too, please.
Yeah, take one.
Thank you.
That's up to you.
Kurt, I have one question for you. Chitsey Drive, when are we starting that?
The bid opening Thursday.
Okay.
It's bid opening, and we're trying to get going soon, half thereafter.
Let's see, I'm on item I, town manager's search. The next step, at your desk tonight, there should have been copies of all the resumes in the yellow envelope. I figure we have a meeting next week, so why don't we take those home? Maybe we could have time to look at them, and maybe next meeting we'll talk about setting up, a meeting to further discuss them. Does that work for
Just
everybody?
casually going through them. I think one of the applicants is somebody we interviewed
We did.
5 years ago, a fellow from Maine by the name of Pilgrim.
Yeah, we did.
So I just point that out to people if I'm correct.
Thanks, Jim.
I remember that too.
So, is everybody good with that? Okay.
Yeah, we need to get rolling on this and get something secured permanently, so then we can move on and do a lot of other things.
Okay. And everybody read the background information. There's no suggested motion. Okay. Item M, use of funds for part-time assessor position and park recreation secretary position.
Yes, this is an item that I know I had brought to you on the assessor and was going to bring on the secretary, but we really need some clarification. These were funds that were approved during budget time. Let me just get my notes. In the amount $36,027 in wages for park and recreation and $6,551 for the part-time assessor. And some of those funds have been utilized so far this fiscal year. And I think what we need is direction. If you're not going to fill them, can the dollars be used to bring in temporary help? Or in the case of the assessor, she had utilized part-time staff and the town clerk, and she can continue to do that. We just need some clarification here, because even myself, I'm just not sure. Should it just be frozen and we're not going to use any of it? I'm not sure that Park and Rec can survive doing that, but direction, I think, is all I need from all of you on what we should be doing with these two positions.
Well, on the Park and Rec position, what is currently being done?
Currently, and Pam's here, so she can assist with that. Currently, we've had 2 people helping out. One was just during the summertime, and the other one is ongoing. How many hours, Pam? Maybe you can come up and... We need the mic, because they can't hear, the TV can't hear if you're not at that mic. Thank you.
We have one that's been on since November. Well, the seat has never been empty. So it's very hard we would be disassembled in our office without that core position. And I've tried for years to say that it's never been empty. And I've been told even by people that were town managers that keep doing what you're doing, get by, because it was a union position, but we needed the seat filled. I mean, just to have nobody up front, that's your customer service part, that's your core of your department. We're bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars all year and money that is coming through there. So I don't know how, you can freeze a position, but to freeze out that core position, we have 3 people in the office, including myself, and I'm supposed to run the Parks and Rec department and the senior center. And to cut it down to 2 people?
Well, how did you fill it? I mean, because I don't remember it being advertised or
just
becoming,
went to the
because there was a...
schools, college kids. I've trained over the 5 years. Of course, I think it's been 5 years since the position's been frozen. It's been dozens of college kids and dozens of people that it's taken up my time to train. And then, it's just temporary people. We've had the one we have in our office now has been here since November.
I'm confused though. I'm all in favor of getting you the help you need, but where is this being funded from? Even whether it's part-time, seasonal, whatever?
It's funded right from
the money that was approved during the budget process for a secretary, but that has never been allowed to be filled.
So the allocation in the budget is being expended, but we've not authorized the filling of the position.
Right. On a full-time basis.
Boy, I'm glad Al stepped down. I would not want to hear it. Yeah.
Well, and that's my confusion, because normally I'm used to if a council approves the money for a position, it's a go unless, the budget looks like, hell, to put it bluntly. And I'm so confused over both of these because the monies are in the budget, but yet you're not allowed to fill them.
But we have a hiring freeze, that's the whole nuts and bolts of the thing. We put a hiring freeze on this year.
Well, there was one last year too, and the department had to come before the council to get authorization, and I don't remember Park and Rec coming before the council.
That's because I was told from the town manager just to keep the office running. Keep the office running, keep hiring the people you need to hire, keep the office running.
So the person you had during the summertime, was that for the Potato Fest?
For everything.
Just to
keep the office going. I mean, we had him doing Potato Fest, we had him doing accounting, we had customer service out front answering the phones. I mean, there was numerous things. Dispatching for the senior center.
They do a lot of programs too for the kids.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying, but it.
No, Potato Fest had someone distinctly at one point, didn't work. Fell to the ground, then we had to fill it. So it was.
So, yeah, so my
and we
point
jumped on
is,
board.
if that should come out of Potato Fest money, to pay, if they hired someone to work on the Potato Fest.
So much work on both sides that it would be hard to differentiate. I mean, when you had one person doing solely one thing, it was easy, but when they're doing everything, from flyers to school things to Park and Rec and Senior Center, and I mean, it's just a medley, fitness room. It's very hard to differentiate between that.
It seems to me that clearly what's happened, rightly or wrongly, is that the hiring freeze was circumvented, that we did not authorize the filling of the position, but I'm not faulting Pam. She was clearly told by her superior to continue doing what she was doing. So she did that by using temporary help that was essentially paid from that line item in our budget.
Correct.
I think as a council, we've got a responsibility to say, do that or don't do it.
Right.
So either approve the hiring of a person or disapprove it if in fact that's what we're going to do, whatever the consequences may be for that department. But right now, they're operating in sort of a fog where they really have no direction, and they are not properly filling this position.
Right.
But yet they're expending the funds.
Right.
So we're deluding ourselves to say that we're somehow being fiscally responsible.
We're not.
We're being like a ship without a rudder.
Right.
Either yay or nay.
Correct.
And now,
And that's what I need.
with the moving to Stanley T. Williams, and having everything housed up there, you're going to have the seniors, Park Rec, everything up there.
Still need a secretary.
Right. So, with this move happening too, I got to imagine.
Well, I just think the whole intent too of the move, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to expand programs, get more people involved. I know Pam and I have talked about senior centers not being senior centers, community centers.
Right.
And really bring in more money.
Right.
Because there's certainly.
The enrollment's gonna jump.
Opportunity, especially the fitness center and everything, to bring in a lot more money.
Is your intention to keep the person that you have now, or?
Well, you mean if you
It's a
filled
complete
it?
asset to the town.
If you filled the position?
Well,
we have to follow.
Right,
you have to follow the protocol.
Right.
Advertise. Yes.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to approve the filling of the position within the limitations set forth in the town budget that we approved last March.
I'll second it.
Moved by Councilor Fawnin, seconded by Councilor Duty. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth, Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Duty?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Sienna?
Yes.
Okay, you're legal again.
And she will expect to bring in millions. So the only other dilemma we still have is just the part-time assessment assistant. So is it a case where, which is fine, that we go back to utilizing any assistance the part-time person in the clerk's office can give to us? Because I know twice now, it's basically, we're not gonna hire a temp, so. Again, I just don't want any surprises when all of a sudden you look at a budget 6 months from now and go, wait, how the heck did she spend this money? So at least if we have some direction.
And that one was, what, 6?
And Chris is
I've got a
here.
certain reluctance on that one because there was a vote within the last month.
Twice.
And I didn't vote in favor of it, but I was outvoted. But clearly a majority made the decision that that position was not to be filled. So I'm not going to sit here and presume that I should be able to.
No, but I
provide
think
that.
at least if we know that, because, really, and again, Chris and Anthony probably have the history better than I, it was always that some hours from the part-time clerk in the clerk's office could help Christine when she was at crunch time. And then it was decided during budget that we tried this route, but obviously we're not going that route. So I just want to make sure everybody says, yes, you can utilize some hours from the clerk's office so that the spending of the money is legal. That's all I'm worried about.
Well, they do use some hours now.
No, I put it on a hold because of the no votes.
Well, when is Pam, doesn't Pam work there?
Like,
She works there part-time?
Chris or,
Yeah, Pam works
we
there.
probably need Chris and Lisa to actually explain it, but we'll start with Chris.
Yes, this is Pam that works in the town clerk's office, but it's a shared position with my office. It's just that at this particular time of year, if the town clerk needs her more, she uses her there. I get about 5 to 8 hours a week, off and on, and she uses her also for her office. So the reason why this came up last time is because it's such conflicting schedules, because we both need someone at basically the same time. So that's why we put it up to hire somebody new. So the direction we're looking for is if you're putting a freeze on hiring someone new, then to utilize this person again so they can continue working in the assessor's office.
Lisa, can we have your side of it?
It was originally 19 hours in my office. When you cut the part-time position, that was 19 hours in the assessor's office 3 years ago. There was a transition when the other assessor left, our former assessor, and that's the other staff member also left. During that time, Pam worked more hours in the assessor's office. Then you finally budgeted 5 hours. You took 5 hours out of my budget, so Pam was down to 14 hours, which is currently what it is now.
14 from yours and
14
5.
hours in my budget and 5 hours in the assessor's budget. Last year, I think they sought during the budget time to increase that because Chris needs more help. But because Pam works 14 hours in my office and the 5 hours, if you increase that, you're creating a union position
With benefits.
with benefits.
Benefits, yeah.
So that's why it needed to be separated into 2 different positions. You cut the money back to the 6,551?
6551.
But originally, what actually is in there still is the 5 hours for Pam in Chris's budget
Is
and
that
the
part of the
14 in mine.
6551?
No.
Actually,
The
this is
6,
about 8 hours now, 8 hours a week instead of 5 hours.
if you include the extra money. But you really can't do that. You would put her over the 19 hours. Am I wrong, Anthony?
And that's a problem. Well, I still say we decided not to have any increase in employees this year, and I still think we should do it, because we're not going to have any better year next year.
That's fine, I mean, again, if that's the direction you wanna go in, but we just needed to know, so I don't, Chris or I don't do something that, you know.
Well, we already voted twice that we weren't gonna do it. So we have to vote again, is that what you're saying?
No, it's
Okay.
just,
They want
I just
direction, I
wanna
want the-
clarify because, the usage of Pam and the budget history that, and I wasn't here, that's part of my problem, so I need to.
Well, should we
figure-
take that money out and put it in contingency so that there won't be any problem where it is?
No. If
Okay.
we hear no,
Okay.
I will let you spend.
Item 10, citizen statements and petitions.
Fire 1251 Middletown Avenue. I heard some good stuff tonight, and first of all, the local bidder's preference. I think it's very important. Keep the work in your own house. It's like having your brother-in-law as a carpenter. You may not like the work he does, but he gives you a good break. But I know these people in town, we have all good craftsmen, and they're hearing about jobs long after they've been bid and put out. So I think to clean that up will help a lot, and just improve the morale of the workers in town too. It's tough for them to hear that work's going to contractors far outside our borders. Another good thing I'm liking to see is, basically because I have no life, my 3 exciting nights are 2 here and 1 at the Board of Ed. But I see different faces at both places. Hopefully now I'll see more faces from both sides at both meetings, and I think that will really take down a great big wall. Because sometimes when it's on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, you don't get the same responses when you see the person face to face and how they explain what's on that piece of paper. You might get it in your packet and not have the slightest idea what it's all about. You go to the Board of Ed, they fully explain it, but you know, a lot is lost between this building here and Stanley T. Williams. So I mean, I hope to see this, because at budget time, the negative cloud rose pretty heavy this year, and I don't want to see that again this year coming up. Blight. Al Rose brought it up. There's a house owned by a bank across the street from his business. It's boarded up, I believe. It's that yellow house, I think I did. That is definitely blight. Now, I don't understand the legalities. I mean, when a realtor takes a house for sale, are they bound by any law at all, or they can just throw the sign up and walk away? Do you know?
Well, the
what you're
realtor
offering?
doesn't
It's a
own it.
contract. They enter into a contract with the homeowner to sell the house, and there are obviously certain ethical standards that they have to comply with, but if they want to sell the house, they'll want to have it improved as well.
But at that time, when they accept the contract, the town does not get involved at all, right?
Well, we don't
Well,
have
they
any
could-
ability to get involved at this point. That's not a significant event just because the homeowner gave it to a
Okay.
realtor. I mean,
Okay.
the
Well, whether they want-
event is what more or less what we would want to do is reach that house before it gets boarded up. Or if it's owned by the bank, that's even better because we have a better chance
Okay,
of.
let me go back one more transaction then. The bank takes the house over. Now, don't they have to get deeded the house? Don't they have to come into the town clerk and sign for that house?
No.
No?
If the bank, when you say takes over, the bank could own the house by way of foreclosure, and in that case, they own the house.
Okay, so now they're the new owners.
Yeah.
So can't we get involved sooner, like you say? And another question I have is, you know, that seems to be like you say, the process goes for so long, then too late, everybody wants to get involved. Another thing is, up the street, from Company 3, there was a house that had an electrical issue during the storm and burned pretty seriously. That house, I don't think anything's going on with that one. Is there, Mike?
No, that's an insurance company, fire dispute.
Yeah, okay,
So-
but again, now does the town cannot get involved in that either then, right?
Well, it depends. The town does have the right to get involved when the health, safety, and welfare
Yeah.
of the citizens or of individuals are involved. If it's building code violations, that's how we got into Amato. We did it by way of building code violations, and and the health, safety, and welfare of the community in having a structure like that.
Okay, I mean, I didn't know, like, this is well over a year now, right?
Yeah, next year it'll be it was the October storm, so next year it'll be, or next month it'll be a year.
Yeah, so I mean, when there's that much inactivity, then the property does deteriorate fairly
Yeah,
quickly
there's-
after 4 seasons.
It's not a problem for the town to act when it's in the Amato state or in the state of the house you're describing. That's the end stage.
Okay.
That's the end stage. The idea is to get to that homeowner and to that house to see if it can be taken care of. And it's often not a case of not having the money.
Yeah.
It can be intentional neglect.
Well, I mean, like at that year timeline, some kind of flag should either go up with zoning or somebody, and then they get back into the mix and saying, okay, why are we stalled here? What's the deal? And either you push forward or you know, you keep a kind of running tab before it goes another year. Now and then it's really in bad shape. And now you're beyond the blight. You're now into the deterioration level that's beyond blight. I mean, that house is getting pretty well overgrown too, right?
Yeah, I talked to the homeowner's daughter, and that was an insurance company dispute on that piece of property. But still, you know, it's declared a total, you know.
Yeah, so either it comes down
it
again.
It should be taken down, and that's why we need some type of ordinance to,
That's why even
you know,
that was.
and even the house on, we talked about on Blue Trails Drive, I mean, that's a walkaway. I mean, the people walked away from the house,
So you have the abandonment, but you have the fire insurance claims, you know,
Well, you're pointing out the economic times we're in. We're not the only town, and there's a lot of them going on, and I know a lot of other towns are having the same problem.
well, I'm not saying go into severe, but just kind of watch the situation before the 1 year, okay, zoning can say, you know, that house is burnt a year ago, where are we at? And if they need another year, and maybe it might get cleared up, but again, how long are you gonna go before now it becomes a town's problem? You have to tear it down because, again, they couldn't agree, they both walk away. You know, you need some intervention before you get to a point where now you're gonna own another house. Now you're gonna own a Matos and a house. You know what I'm saying? You have a growing problem. And like I say, fire is kind of different than the other stuff, maybe economics. It's still a reason for a house to be in a worse state of blight now because the fire has weakened the structure.
Sure.
And the roof could cave in this winter if we had a lot of snow. We were lucky last year.
Yeah.
We didn't have the snow we had the year before.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, that was just, again, like I say, I'm glad to see that you're doing the bidders, and I'm glad to see you're gonna talk to the Board of Ed. But just, you know, and again, the local contractors, I think, are gonna be happy. And if you have a public hearing, I'm sure they'll be more than happy to help you understand where they're at. Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. Is there any other citizen statements? Okay. Motion.
Move to go into executive session to discuss union negotiations, including the town attorney, town manager.
Second.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Wentworth, seconded by Councilor Fawnin to go into executive session, including the town attorney and town manager. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Duty?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Cannon?
Yes.